All right, welcome everyone. This is the first time I'm doing this, and I hope this goes together well. And if not, then I tried. But anyways, I'm Nishant Kelker, and I'm an avid fan of video games. So I thought I'd just make this video game discussion like podcast thing. And this is my good friend Nicholas Langenfeld. He goes by
Hello.
Nick. You can give a small little introduction about yourself, Nick, if you want to.
Hi, I'm Nick. That's it. I've
Yeah.
I've 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 never played a video game. No, that's not true. But
Yeah. Nick is a good friend of mine from UTD
yeah.
TV and from other college stuff as well. So,
Okay.
yeah, so what we're going to be talking about today is a fun little game I played a little while back called Persona 5. And I have an interesting history with this game, as do most people. But I'll get to that later on, but I had a very good time with this game. I had a lot of ups and downs, lefts and rights, but um, I just wanted to talk about it with my friend Nick here. So I got some questions planned out, and we're both going to answer them just casually, and it's going to be a good time. So let's get started. So this is going to be mainly about Persona 5, but I wanted to start off with Persona, the series as a whole. So, Nick, what got you into the Persona series?
Uh, I came across there's this web video called it's about this comic by this person called Hi, I'm Daisy. They made a web comic about Persona 4, and someone made a video over it, and that's was like what got me interested in the series was that video.
Yeah,
And
I
then
remember you. I remember you sent that to me, and
yeah,
it was
yeah,
pretty funny. Yeah, like over
yeah.
exaggerated all the events that happen in Persona 4. But
Yeah, it's very funny. And then this YouTuber, it like then Persona 5 came out. This YouTuber called Nico B played it, and then I watched like 5 minutes of it, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna buy this game," and I
yeah,
went and bought it. Yeah,
it's a game where I don't know. You're either very attracted to it or you're like, what is going on with this game? But yeah,
yeah,
it's a very enticing game. But I hope people who are interested in playing Persona 5 watch this video and are more inclined to play it after this. I hope we kind of inspire people to play this game because it's a pretty good game. So
yeah, yeah. It is a time sink though.
yeah, it's a very big time sink. But so how I got into Persona 5 is I think you might remember this, Nick. So it was December 2018. I probably like a year and a half since the game came out. And Super Smash Bros. Ultimate just came out. The world was in a frenzy because a new Smash Brothers game is huge, right? And then the Game Awards happened. The Game Awards were like December 5th, I think, 2018 or whatever date it was. But then the first DLC character for Challenger Pack 1 was announced at the Game Awards, and it was Joker from Persona 5. And everyone just flipped out on the internet. Everyone just went crazy. And I remember I came to your apartment that day and I was like, Nick, do you know who this guy is? Who's Joker from Persona 5? And then you went into your room and showed me your Persona 5 PS4 controller. And I was like, wow. So
Yeah, yeah,
this is a supposed to be a really good game, okay? So I and
yeah.
then over the course of winter break, I read into it more. So Persona 5 is this. I looked into it. I was like, oh, it's JRPG with some life sim elements into it. You're a high school um student living in Tokyo. Then I watched a lot of videos on it. A lot of like spoiler-free videos. And I was like, this looks like a very, very, very immersive game, yet like it's got a lot of rules. Like I like RPGs with like good sets of rules that you got to follow. And you gotta adhere by and just kind of learn the system of it. So I was
You
like, I gotta
do
play
you
this game.
mean
Yeah, what
sorry,
was
do you mean gameplay rules or like story rules?
more gameplay stuff.
Okay,
That's what
okay,
really, like, before anything in the story attracted me to Persona 5, the gameplay was really enticing. So
okay.
I didn't have a PS4, so I was like, how am I gonna play this game? And then I realized it's on the PS3. But then I was like, how about I not play it on the PS3 because the PS4 version is gonna be so much better. And then I realized a few months later, a game called Persona 5 Royal was announced. And I realized
Yeah.
that that was like the definitive version of the game. So let's see, a year and a half later, and we're in 2020, I skipped out on the PS4 entirely, got a PS5. That's an entirely different story altogether. And one of the first games I got was Persona 5 Royal, and I put 126 hours into it, and it was worth it. It was
Yeah,
worth
yeah.
it. So the next thing I want to talk about is, to newcomers of the Persona series, what advice would you give to people, especially in Persona 5?
I mean, the obvious one is it's a it's a lot of time. It's a very, very long game. Uh, so you can't just casually play it on the side. You really got to dedicate some
Yeah,
time to it. You really have to plan stuff out too. It's kind of like a good reference is like Majora's Mask, where you're under a time limit, though like less so in Majora's Mask because you reset time and all that, but you're under a time limit, so there's only a limited amount of time you can do everything. And like
yeah,
it's the whole game is supposed to mimic like real life. So that stuff where it's like when you put stuff off and you just never get to it, that can happen. Like, I mean, that can happen in any game, but that really does happen in Persona 5. So it's a game you have to do some thinking about what you're gonna do next, some
yeah.
planning.
I like your comparison to Majora's Mask because before I even knew what the Persona series was, whenever I played Majora's Mask, by the way, Majora's Mask is my favorite Zelda game, and Zelda is my favorite video game series of all time. So, like, I really like Majora's Mask. But like, whenever I played Majora's Mask back in like middle school, I loved how you had to plan out almost every single thing you do in one day, and
Yeah.
you have to use the time traveling mechanics to your advantage. And the thing about Persona 5 is you can't time travel, obviously, because it's real life. And the thing about Persona 5 is there are a lot of things you have to juggle, like the palaces you have to conquer, your social stats, your confidants. Those are very important, and everything else in between, like which personas you want to get, which personas you want to level up, mementos requests. This all makes sense if you play the game. I'm talking to people who are watching this, but um, there's a lot of things you have to juggle. But I will reassure people this, that it is possible to complete a majority of all of these things with careful planning and careful methodical reasoning. You can do a lot that this game has to offer and experience a lot of it. And that's what I love a lot about this game. You have to plan a lot, but it's really fruitful. It really pays off in the end. So that's that. So what is your favorite thing about this game? That's a very broad
Uh,
question, but what do you think is your favorite thing about it?
my very favorite thing probably has to be the gameplay like feedback loop it has.
Yeah,
That kind of like when you do stuff, you get rewarded and you continue doing like the kind of the I always enjoy the day stuff in the game probably the most. I think just like kind of like when you do stuff and you when it finally gets breached, when you're like trying to train up social stats and you get that like next level, or
yeah,
like when you get like a when you get to spend time with like your favorite confidants, like all that kind of stuff when you like your planning like pays off. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get what you mean because sometimes like since some confidants have like locks where you have to like get a
Yeah.
certain number of social stats before you can progress that confidant even more. So like when you get that certain amount of social stats, you feel so relieved that you can finally continue that confidant. Yeah, I totally get what you mean. But
Yeah.
I think my favorite thing would be two things. I think, of course, the gameplay. I really like the gameplay, but I think even more than the gameplay, my favorite thing about the game is the style that the game
Yeah.
has.
That's also one of my favorites.
Yeah, because like immediately when you just look at videos of this game, you're like, wow, this is a very, very stylish game. The colors, the animation, the music is out of this world. I love the music. It's probably my favorite soundtrack in any video game ever. Um, just everything from the menus to the UI and the um, battle animations, the battle layout, the HUD of the battles, everything is just great
Yeah. The
because
pause screen
yes, the
is
pause screen.
probably the standout thing to me.
Yeah, yeah, I very much agree because I don't know, it's coming from a very, of course, each Persona game has its own style, especially like the Hashino era Persona games where Persona 3 is blue, Persona 4 is yellow, Persona 5 is red.
Red.
Yeah, but I think personally in my opinion the Persona 3 and 4 didn't have much of a very unique design to it. So really um pushing that for Persona 5 made it a very memorable experience. Like the fonts and the colors and everything, it just really oozed like what I love about the style the most is it oozed that theme of rebellion and just like waking up, getting up, get out there, like what
Yeah.
the song says. It's just like in your face, and I love it. That's that's probably my favorite thing about the game. Of course, the
Yeah.
gameplay is
Yeah.
great, but I think the style is amazing.
Yeah. I definitely agree. The style is very. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's good about Persona 5, but the style is definitely the thing that puts it on the map more than anything else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I very much agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about our favorite thing. So let's talk about the characters. So as you can see from my background here, there are a lot of characters in this game, and these aren't even all the characters. So who were some of your favorite confidants? Who are some of your least favorite confidants? Also, not even restricting confidants and like other major characters in the game. So like even people like the palace rulers or like side characters, those are included as well.
Uh, favorites. I mean, there's a lot. I like all the Phantom Thieves to different levels, to different degrees of likability. I think Ryuji is my favorite. I really he generally serves as probably one of the more the characters with a lot of agency in terms of the story and pushing whenever something goes whenever they meet the new like palace leader. He's usually the first one to kind of step up and say like this isn't right, we need to do something about this, which is something I really appreciate. He also it's kind of hard to talk about some of the characters without discussing previous Persona characters and how they kind of what traits they share and what traits they like differ from. Because
Yeah,
it really
because Makoto kind of reminded me a little bit of Yukiko from Persona 4, and even some of even Ryuji reminded me a little bit of Chie from Persona 4 as well. Just
yeah
the small mannerisms.
yeah he's very much Yosuke, Chie, and Kanji
Yeah.
combined in the one person. That's probably one of the things that makes some of the Persona 5 characters really I think stand out as characters is that they really take some of the good traits from past characters without some of the worser traits from past characters.
Yeah, I very much agree with that.
Like I
Yeah.
like Junpei and Yosuke, but they're kind of like they're kind of they're kind of jerks half the time. Or they do well more Junpei at the start than but like Ryuji really is more uh less of an overall jerk than the previous like bro characters, which is part of the reasons why I can like appreciate him is that like he's not like he's not like in the past two characters when they're like constantly hitting on the like the female cast.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
he's much more like restrained, not restrained, like he's much more tolerable when it comes to his bad quirks. Like his worst quirk is that his worst trait is that he wants like credit or stuff that he's been doing, kind of
Yeah,
like
I agree with that because Ryuji, a lot of his like a motivation of being a phantom thief is like the clout he will get from it, because especially
yeah
like once things start getting to everyone's head in like the Okumura arc, he's like, oh, I can get all these girls, I can get all these fans, and why don't we just
yeah
tell people we're phantom thieves? But I think later on he realizes that what he's doing is like
yeah
actually
because
doing like a good thing for people and like saving people. So he doesn't
yeah
like he later on stops caring about like the material things that come from being a phantom thief.
yeah there's a lot to appreciate even with that stuff because like he starts out not even caring about like fame. Like you and him start out doing it because like of like the Kamoshito
Yeah.
stuff with the Shiho and all that stuff. Like it's completely like a noble pursuit initially. And even when he's talking about like, oh dang, I like he never actually like tells people. I mean, he says it out loud like stupidly, but when he's saying stuff like if I told people I'd be getting all these girls, he never does it.
Yeah.
You know, like which is he makes a comment to you like, dang, like maybe she would if I like there's a, I think that's something I appreciate is that he doesn't like go out and do stupid stuff. He more like he's I guess not sane, but like there's like a degree of like he never actually does some of the stupid stuff he's gonna say. He just kind of talks about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's quite the talker, I would say. But
yeah,
yeah, I think in the end, Ryuji really has good intentions. I think out of the three uh, best bros in Persona with Junpei, Yosuke, and Ryuji, I think Ryuji is definitely my favorite.
yeah. They dropped a lot of the worser traits the past two had.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I agree. But I think another one of my favorite characters, two other favorite characters I had. One is An, and another is Futaba. So I'll talk about An first. An, I
yeah,
think, really has the
she's
best intentions of being a phantom thief. She
yeah,
like goes into the Kamoshida arc like really wanting to give it to him. Like she's like been through a lot of hard stuff when it comes to with like Kamoshida and stuff. So she really wants to like set things right. And I think in every arc of the game, I think she has the best intentions. Even especially I think in Madarame's arc. I think she forms a bond with Yusuke, though a very strange bond at times. But
yeah,
it like I think she really sympathize and empathize with Yusuke a lot. And Yusuke, not to be confused with Yosuke from Persona 4, but
yeah,
anyways, yeah. But I think I think she has her time to shine in almost every single arc, and I really respected On for that. Plus, she was always
yeah,
in my party. She was a great fighter in my party. If you
yeah.
guys ever play the game, always use On in your party. She's She's always
Yeah,
very reliable.
her and Ryuji's end game skills
Oh yeah, they're
really
great.
really make them some of the standouts at the end. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
especially
definitely my
yeah,
favorite female Phantom Thief member. There's
yeah,
this she's in the same situation with Ryuji where the past two first girls that join your party are likable but both have some like kind of like unpleasant or like traits that like usually a lot of players get really sick of really quickly, and on lacks that, which is again the same thing with Ryuji where you can really appreciate that they kind of like drop some of the more obnoxious flaws for that they have for like comedy and kind of just gave the character more of like a like noble intentions and stuff.
yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, that's on, but I wanted to talk about Futaba really quick because everyone keeps saying that like Makoto's best girl in Persona 5, Makoto is the best. And I didn't hate Makoto, but I didn't see why everyone thought that she was like the best character because she's a good character. I love her like arc with her and Sai, her older sister and everything. But I think Makoto just falls a little short when it comes to other characters in the Phantom Thieves. I think Futaba is very interesting because Futaba has like her own arc dedicated solely to her, which harkens back to how the story was played out in Persona 4. I won't spoil too much with that Futaba arc, but I really think Futaba had some of the most powerful development when it comes to Phantom Thief characters because she starts off being totally afraid of everyone, a complete shut in, total introvert, but she really develops into someone more likable, charismatic, approachable, very influential part of the Phantom Thieves. Though she's still got her like quirkiness and introvertedness in there, like that doesn't change, but she becomes a very like she's got her own goals, she's got her own ambitions, and she's by the end of the game she's like ready to sit out and do those things. So I really respected Futaba for that as a character. Though I think she can, she did get on my nerves a bit with her quirky gamer antics,
Yeah,
but
I do
I,
not care for her. I mean, she has a lot of depth, but I every time she opens her mouth and says some video game reference, I'm like, oh, like turn it off. Like,
you're my key item. I'm just like, no, Thomas, stop.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, I like her, but it's very weird to have secondhand embarrassment for someone like in a video game talking about video games.
yeah. It's a very meta thing. Yeah. Also, speaking of that, you can play retro video games in Persona 5. So that's a pretty fun thing to do.
Yeah,
It's another pretty meta thing you can do in Persona 5. So, all right, that's a that's some preview on the characters, some of our
yeah,
favorites. So next thing is which palaces did you enjoy the most? Um, we can talk about palaces, but let's tread carefully on spoilers. I guess we can like talk about like what the palaces are, but
yeah.
probably stay
We
away
can
from
say
like
like
major story stuff.
first, second, third, fourth, fifth. We can say that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I've not played all the way through Royal actually. I've had like a ton of other stuff since it came out like almost a year ago. Like it came out like a week before like the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Yeah.
So I did there's been constantly new releases. So I've not actually played through the Royal part of I've played through all the vanilla one. So I can't really speak too much on the new dungeon, the new palace that is added in Royal, though everything I've heard sounds like it's very, very exciting. It sounds like up my alley. So I would say my favorite two are the first palace because of all the like I think the tone leading I don't actually think like the layout's the best, but I do think like the tone for the first segment of the game is one of my favorite. It's very I always appreciate it in games that have a very even when they have a lot in the game, the start of the game that keeps it very like in a tight box in terms of who's really like a character in the first segment, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like they have a very good tone with very, very minimum amount of characters. So I think that the tonally for the first palace is probably my favorite. But I think the fifth, the casino one, the one that you
Oh
see
yeah,
in the
that's
intro.
sixth one. Yeah.
The sixth one, yeah, that
Yeah.
is a that's probably also one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think that casino, like the entire arc with the casino palace is a very good arc. I think that's probably the best arc in the game, aside from the royal additions, like everything that happens in royal. I think the casino arc is definitely the best in the game. Without, I won't get into spoilers. That's it, it's pretty awesome. I'll just say that. But I like that you mentioned the first palace because I think the first palace is great. It really kicks your butt if you're not ready for it because it's early game Persona, and like early game in most Persona games is very difficult, but once you really get into the game a lot more, you'll things will kind of level out more. But I I appreciated the first arc because of the villain very much, the characters, and also I think there is one part in that first palace arc that is one of my favorite moments in an entire video game. It's like right before you're about to battle the first boss, and like the music plays, and the music is one of my favorite songs in any Persona game. And when that
Yeah.
part plays, it's like one of my favorite moments in a video game. You're just like, yes, I'm ready to like get this done, kind of thing. It's great.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think uh, that's one of my favorite palaces. The casino is great as well. I really like that story wise. I think the fourth palace is great too. The pyramid was nice because I liked the design of it. I like the music. The music was very catchy. The design was really cool because it incorporated like ancient Egyptian architecture with like other stuff. I don't want to get into too much spoilers, but it's not only ancient Egyptian architecture you find in this pyramid. I'll just leave it at that. But I
Yeah, it's a
also
fun mashup of aesthetics.
yeah, exactly. And I think one downside I have with Persona 5 is it's a downside and an upside. It's kind of like a trade-off because the dungeons, which are now called palaces in Persona 5, are like like very much upgraded from what they used to be in older Persona games. Like they used to be like randomly generated dungeons, and now they're like actual layouts of like actual palaces or whatever they are designed to be, like actual dungeons. But I think they could have done better with the puzzles in them. Some of the puzzles could have been better in some of the dungeons or palaces. So some of them, I remember we were talking about this once. Some of the puzzles are just get past this mini boss and
Yeah.
you're good to go, and then you get like an item that you have to use to get to some other place. But I think the fourth palace's dungeons, I mean the fourth palace's puzzles were a little more interesting than some of the others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some puzzles you get tired of it the first time you do the puzzle, I feel like. So some of them you're like, oh, we gotta do this like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But some are pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say this without spoiling anything. The new dungeon in Persona 5 Royal is amazing. It's aesthetically good. Um, it's story wise, it's amazing. The music is amazing, and there's I think I told you this once before, but there's one area in the dungeon where the aesthetics are out like amazing. Looks really good. It's probably one of my favorite designed areas in a Persona game.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for you to eventually tackle this palace whenever you
Yeah,
do.
yeah. So am I.
Yeah. So I feel like you're more uh acquainted with JRPGs than I am. So this next question is, how do you think Persona 5 slash Persona 5 Royal compares to other JRPGs?
uh Both very good, and there are some parts where Persona 5 falls short that many other JRPGs do not. So to start with, what like the big like the start with the what Persona 5 does good in comparison to others is a lot of like really in-depth writing, a lot of time to spend with characters. They give a lot of screen time. It's kind of like comparing like a TV show to a movie, where like a really good TV show can really flesh out a lot of characters because they have a lot of time to,
Yeah.
and a lot of focus. Like a movie really can't focus a ton on a lot of characters. Like it's got usually like a 2 hour max, so it's got to be fast. It's got to really focus on what's truly important. So like Persona 5 is kind of like the TV show where you can really get in depth with characters that would be super like one note in other games. um and like even not the best written characters usually have a lot more depth than some good characters from some other games. Like it's a lot of good time to spend. And of course it's really fun. It fits that kind of same thing as like Earthbound, where it's very exciting to see like real life, like comedy like tropes applied to like a video game and stuff. That's
Hmm.
very fun. In terms of where I think it falls flat, it's definitely in terms of like, this is gonna sound weird, but in terms of like combat, I think generally I would say, in comparison to other JRPG, Persona 5 moves, like attacking moves, are generally like disappointing in terms of
Yeah.
their variety and their complexity. Like I've seen like Shin Megami Tensei, which generally uses the same like kind of, or at least from what I've seen, uses the same kind of move pool. And you can see why those moves are like that and how they work more in like a much more difficult game. But in terms of like, I don't know, stuff like when you play like Pokemon or Dragon Quest, and there's moves in those games that have like such specific ways they work. Like stuff like, just for examples, like in Pokemon, like most moves don't just attack, they do something else. They'll lower a stat or raise a stat or something. So suddenly each move isn't just like fire one, like isn't just fire, like basic fire, medium fire. Like like obviously they can burn in Persona, but there's a lot more complexity. Or like in Dragon Quest, like a very specific move I always think of, that actually I can't remember the name off the top of my head. No, it's like double-edged sword, but basically like a move that hits you the like same damage you do to your opponent.
Oh, that's
So
so
it's
cool.
meant for people. It's like meant for a specific class of people who can really take, and it's like applied to your defense too, I believe, if I'm
Oh, that's
remembering it
nice.
correctly. So it's stuff like where you can double up, where it's like a single move, and obviously Persona kind of has like the physical moves that take away HP, but it's like this one move is meant for characters who can really take these hits and deal out just tremendous damage. Or there's a lot of interesting moves like that, where there's like a move that can like it doubles your attack but like halves your defense and stuff like that. Like that
Yeah.
kind of trade-off. And like I don't know, there's just a lot more complexity in what you can do. Like there's in the Dragon Quest 11, which is probably the most like, what's the term, like, not what's the term for where something is like the easiest to get and play, I think.
Accessible.
Accessible, yeah, the most
Yeah.
accessible game. There's like a specific character who, one of his main gimmick, like a thief, one of his main gimmicks is that he can like inflict status ailments on the people. And then
Mhm.
he has different moves that deal like insane damage to enemies that have stats. But it's stuff like that where it's like characters that can really build off of the last thing they did for like a long time. Like it's a lot of like a lot of this the gameplay like combat is really just hit persona with its weakness
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Because like even in Pokemon, there's a lot of times where if you don't have a type effective move, you can just hit something like there's a lot of times where you can just hit something with neutral damage, and hopefully you're like that. There's a lot of like more complexities in other JRPGs than there is in terms of combat than Persona, which is
Yeah.
fine because Persona does not rely on its combat as the main gameplay. To be honest, like as
Yeah, I
discussed,
always found myself having more fun in the real life part of Persona than in the
yeah,
metaverse. Though I did enjoy
same
the
here.
metaverse a lot. And I really agree with you on the battle system. It reminded me a lot of a little bit of a toned down Pokemon because you're still going for elemental weaknesses, but the support moves are there, but they're not like super in depth as much as they are in Pokemon. There aren't many trade-offs. Like one thing I can think of, like something that reminded me of what you said, is the move close combat in Pokemon. If you remember,
Yeah,
close combat, I think it's like a super powerful fighting move. And then when you use it, it lowers both your special and physical defense like a lot. Or like even something like overheat or what is it? There are like three moves that do that. Overheat
yeah.
and then some other moves that like
I think
sharply
superpower.
Draco Meteor, they overheat Draco Meteor and one other one, they sharply reduce your special attack when you use it the second time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it would have been interesting if Persona had some of those glass cannon moves. I mean, you got something like God's Hand. Like whenever you use God's Hand on with Ryuji, you get like you lose a whole bunch of HP. But if there was something like that with respect to your stats, that would have been interesting. But
Yeah.
um
Like when you look at the moves that like the most competitive Pokemon, like when you look at like a competitive Pokemon, you see the moves and move like pools that like the moves that are used in that. And obviously like you don't need to use those moves in usually most storylines for Pokemon, but when you look at the moves like that, like I could be like just forgetting something, but you don't see like stuff like that at all in Persona. And obviously there's that kind of like there's player v player like level of it that Persona doesn't have, but it's just stuff like that where it's like the complexity of what a new Persona can do usually isn't that much more than just hitting harder.
yeah. All right, we're getting down to the home stretch here. So I'm gonna ask you the final question, which is what is your favorite and least favorite thing about Persona 5?
Okay.
To
I
cap
think
it all off. I think I already
yeah.
asked what your favorite is, but um uh yeah,
I can
like
talk
to
about my I can talk about my favorite thing in the whole series.
okay,
If
yeah.
that I think that yeah, again, I think the as I said, the gameplay loop. I think for the whole series, I think the general ability to create tone that it has,
Hmm.
because the tone, the tonal, it's very weird for a game with like, um, it has a lot of like supernatural and like fantasy stuff, but it has a lot of tone that can really like relate to in real life. Like something that's always stood out to me in like Persona 4 is that kind of like that like whenever you watching like the midnight channel and it's like raining,
Yeah.
it's late, like that's such a like a like I've felt that before, like when it's dark, it's rainy, and you're just like watching TV or something like that, like that not many other video games recreate that without like being like a lot of games that do that like do that have a lot of like it's usually like a one time like oh like Yeah, I don't know. Like it's not called attention to the tone like other games do, which I can kind of appreciate that it's like it's just stuff like a lot of stuff that I remember like Persona 4, like when it's like a rainy day too, that they keep harping on the rain. I guess I just like tone that
Yeah.
rain brings. It's usually pretty good like atmosphere, but like that kind of tone of like when you're walking around on a rainy day and like even the game feels like kind of like muggy and you like even the game makes it feel like you just want to go back home, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think I can really appreciate, or like even like as I was talking about like the obviously I've never been in a situation like the first the first palace
Oh yeah.
scenario of Persona 1, but even that kind of like tone of like something's going down, you know, like it's stuff like that that I think I can really appreciate the most from these
Yeah.
games. Is it's very relatable. Of course it tries to be. It's about like real life people. Like that's kind of the thought, is that like, you know, it's supposed to be you, like this could happen to you and your friends. Um though you usually make new friends from it, so it's kind of like I said, it's you and new people
Yeah.
you're about to meet. But like
Yeah.
it's very, it's like there's a lot of tones that you can feel from real life and apply to the game, and the game, or more so you can feel from the game and apply to real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So real quick, what do you think your least favorite thing is?
Least favorite? uh I don't have like a standout. There's a lot of little things. um I won't go too much in depth about it, but some of the weird, there's some weird writing moments.
Oh yeah.
uh I I think a good example is the whole use the whole I won't describe it to
You
spoil it, but
skate on, right?
after the first palace, like moments like
Yeah.
that is just uncomfortable.
Yeah. There's some really very anime moments in there. We'll
Yeah,
just
yeah,
say
that's
that.
actually a
Yeah.
good description.
Yeah. And then everything relating to Morgana and Ryuji is pretty annoying as well.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, more a lot of Morgana's complaining is very, it's valid to have that like kind of like crisis of self-identity, but he really takes it out on Ryu. That whole scene's a mess. Just
Yeah.
from like, I think most people agree Ryuji really shouldn't be the one apologizing that whole
Yeah.
scenario. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think, and stuff like, I don't know, stuff like it's not really much least favorite, but just stuff I don't really, there's stuff I don't really care about. Like like I don't, like there's a lot of times where like they'll ask me a question in like class. I'm like, I don't I don't care.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just stuff like that. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
the biggest thing I'd have to say is any like the writing, the the writing, the bad writing scenes in like all the Persona games are really stand out, especially when they're kind of uncomfortable, like that
Yeah.
Palace 2 uh scene.
But another thing that I kind of disliked about the game is the overabundance of dialogue. I mean, I of course you're in for the story, you're in for the ride with the characters and everything. You want to know what's happening. But there are times where I'm so glad I played Royal, because in Royal there's like an option where you can press square on your PlayStation controller and it will just do auto text. So I didn't have to keep pressing the X button over and over again. So there was a part in Royal where I just put down my controller for a good 20 minutes to a half an hour. I just sat through the dialogue and I was like, wow, this is a huge explanation of what just happened. And I'm here for it, but at the same time, I also want to get back to playing the game.
Yeah.
So that's one big complaint I have. Another is to those playing on like PS4 Pro or PS5 who have come from like visually impressive games like God of War or Monster Hunter World or Uncharted 4, be ready for the graphics of this game to not be the best, but the art style makes up for it. The art
Yeah.
style is amazing, but the like actual graphics of the game aren't the best. But when it comes to graphics, I don't really take much into consideration when it comes
Yeah.
to the quality of a game because I play a lot of like retro games as well. I'm playing Final Fantasy VI right now on an emulator, and
Nice.
that's got like amazing pixel art, but that's another story for another time. But yeah, the dialogue, the graphics, the overabundance of dialogue, the graphics, and probably just Morgana as a whole. Not a fan of Morgana. Those are my three things which I kind of dislike about Persona 5. I mean, it's not a perfect game by any means, but it's still a phenomenal game. I think it I wasn't there for the I wasn't part of the hype back in 2017, but I think it really lived up to the hype. I think it really set a standard for what the Persona series can go for now, and I'm very, very, very excited for Persona 6. I hope it changes up some
Yeah.
gameplay stuff a lot. So yeah,
Yeah. Nishant and I have talked in the past extensively over what we want from Persona 6. And
yeah,
I want them to change up a lot. There's a lot of recurring patterns that really mix up. Like, a big thing we talked about is um like they could like if they put like a female main character and like a female bro character, that would be fun. Like there's a lot of like
yeah,
we saw one theory video that talked about like the concept of like a character in a like a playable character in a wheelchair, like stuff
yeah,
like that, like like um just the stuff that they can do a lot with, like new like different tarot cards, a lot of interesting stuff, like a guy like having a male character be the lovers. Like obviously they don't just need to
yeah,
switch the genders of everything, but like basic like little just the minor change of like that, like the minor change of like having like a girl as the bro character can result in a lot of changing of interactions and stuff. So just interesting stuff like
yeah.
that.
I'm really excited to see them shake up the
Yeah.
formula with this, and I really hope they do. They kind of in terms of like um I wouldn't say storyline, but like characters and gameplay, they kind of played it safe with Persona 5. I mean, with gameplay, they kind of really upped it up, like up the notch a little bit with some stuff, but I really want them to take some really big risks with Persona 6. So we'll
Yeah,
see what
yeah.
they do with it.
Yeah, there's this quote from Freddie Mercury that I really like that does not totally apply. Um, but there's this line where he says when he's passed on and people remix his music, they asked him about remixing his music. He says, I think he said something like, "Whatever I do, whatever you do, just don't make me boring." And I think
Yeah,
that. I mean, that's my approach to a lot of things. I feel like, but this is my approach is to Persona 6 specifically. Is I'm down for a lot of things, even if it's not something that's like my personal favorite. But I don't want Persona 5 with like green or purple. If they do something like how Majora's Mask is just so much different than Ocarina of Time, like tonally
yeah,
and how the gameplay and how they use so stuff like I'd be happy with I'd be happy with most things because like it's a pretty good like gameplay, but yeah, if they get weird with it, I'd be very happy. Or just make it interesting, more interesting than it has already been.
yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think Persona 6 can be an entirely different podcast topic for us in the future if we do this
Yeah.
again. But other than that, I think that about wraps everything up. I hope this I hope this got people a little more interested in what Persona 5 is. If not, ask one of us. We'll go into more
Yeah.
depth and we'll tell you more about it
Yeah.
because we both love talking about this game. and I also hope it didn't scare anyone into getting into the game, because I uh I kind of felt a little intimidated getting into it, but once I got into it, I was just like in for the ride, and it was great. But
Yeah.
yeah,
The nice
I
thing
wanna,
is
yeah.
the nice thing is there's a lot of chances if you need to take a break from it. There's a lot of moments where there's a lot of just day by day stuff where you can really just there's a lot of breaks in the pacing where you can stop for a second.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. But yeah, I think that about wraps it up. I want to give a big thank you to Nick for being a part of
Yeah.
this.
This was fun. This was fun.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad you joined in. I think, yeah, we did a good job with this, and I think for viewers of this podcast, or whatever this unnamed podcast, I think in the future I'll probably increase the quality somehow. I'll look into
It,
getting like instead of doing it over like a video conference, I'll figure out a better way to do it. But we'll see about that in the future. But all in all, thank you to Nick, and thank you to whoever's watching this. And we hope you get into Persona 5, because it's a great game.